Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Monday. This weekend's heavy impact event. Bit controversial that was. So let's talk about David Adeleye and TKV. That story was really dominated by the refereeing that went on in there. But let's just quickly talk about the fight a little bit. A lot of people were saying about David Adeleye that he was sort of too apprehensive, didn't let his hands go enough, and he should have been doing more, essentially. I kind of thought, to me, he was looking to time Jamie TKV, because TKV, although he was moving in position nicely with his feet, he would glide in. He had a really wide stance. So even when he got in and glid in with his feet, he had such a wide stance that he was still quite far away, torso to torso. So he was still really overextending with that jab, and that left a massive gap in behind for someone to time with a right hand over the top of the jab, or even if he had good enough feet with a check left hook as well. So I thought he was correct in doing that. He could have sort of capitalised on more of the moments and gone for those counters. But as it was, I didn't see anything wrong with his tactics, other than possibly he could have used a tiny bit more volume with those counter punches. But he got the win. Regardless of how he got it, he still got it. Now, then we move on to the refereeing. Now, fighters are always going to sort of do that. They're going to take advantage where they can. It's a fight at the end of the day. As Ricky used to say, it's not a tickling contest. So fighters are going to do that. They're going to push boundaries, and they're going to, if they can get, they're going to try it, and if they can get away with it, they get away with it. And in this case, they got away with it. So we must turn towards the referee. By definition, the referee is there to police this kind of stuff. If you're not going to police that kind of stuff, you're not refereeing. By definition, you're not doing your job. He called break 2 or 3 times. David Adeleye hit him with a peach of a hook, to be fair. I mean, when someone's not defending themselves, quite easy. And I go back to this, and I talk about this a lot, and I sound like a bang on about this and a lot of broken record. But we go back to, again, consistency. And this is one of the biggest problems that mars boxing continuously, is consistency. We've got to have consistent refereeing. We've got to have consistent implication of the rules. We have to, otherwise this is going to go on. And fighters are going to do this. Fighters are going to take advantage. When they can, it's a fight, as I said. And I've said this many times before. Referees need to be held accountable. Referees should be accountable publicly to the boxing press. I don't know if referees come out and said anything, but you're never going to get really high-level, consistent refereeing. If they, and I know they can get fined and they can lose, they can get suspended for a time. And I don't know what's happened with this referee. I don't know how they've treated it. But if you don't have to explain yourself, and again, if he has explained himself, I apologise. But certainly in the past, referees haven't had to and haven't done so. So when there's not that pressure on them to explain their decisions, to explain things that they get wrong, there's less pressure, less incentive to actually get things right. So this is, again, another area where the sport needs to look at itself introspectively and recognise we need to change this, because these refereeing decisions, these poor refereeing decisions, are becoming more and more commonplace. And it's just not good enough. It's just not good enough. I think David Adeleye would have won anyway. I thought TKV was poor, if I'm honest. I thought David Adeleye was quite good, albeit at a very low volume. But I thought he was quite good. I thought he looked good. Punches hard. Some physique on David Adeleye, isn't there? I'll leave that there. But I thought Adeleye was quite good. I was happy with his performance. TKV I thought was just poor for me. But there needs to be something done about referees being accountable for their decisions, and the game making them accountable to the fans, to the boxing public and the fans. The fans who are paying their money to go and watch a fight live and see a fair contest with fair and just refereeing, and we're not getting it on more and more occasions. Moving on to Hrgovic versus Joyce. Myself, Joe Stunner, and Bob from Canada's Boxing Channel were talking about this, and Dean, shout out Dean, prior to the fight. None of us were really, None of us really actually wanted to see this fight. None of us really wanted this fight to actually go ahead, just for Joe's sake, because as I've said before, by all accounts, Joe is a lovely fella. But to me, he should leave it alone now. He's a clever guy. He's an educated guy. Academically, just leave boxing alone. Boxing's moved on. Boxing's left you behind. And you can't doubt Joe's guts. You can't count either of those guys' guts. But there was almost from after the first round, if you looked at Joe in the corner, Joe Joyce's face just said one thing to me: I don't want to be here. I'm not enjoying being here. I wish I wasn't here. That's what his face said to me. That's what the body language said. Hrgovic, the commentary said quite a few times, Hrgovic is really good in spurts. Hrgovic looks really good. Now, to me, if any of you lot, if we didn't know Joe Joyce, we didn't know Hrgovic, we didn't know the kind of levels that they've boxed at and the level that this fight was, if you didn't know the names, didn't know the records, didn't know the reputations, to me what was on display was no better than a British title level fight. The technical ability on display wasn't good. To me, it was about British title level. Joe Joyce, you could say, is still fit for his size. Hrgovic has always often been a bit lazy, whether that was down to the fight at fairly short notice or not. But you can't question either of the two's hearts. You can't question their attitudes, in being. You can't question their bottle. You can't any fight that gets through the ropes. You got to put respect on their name for getting through the ropes. But when I looked at that fight and I looked what was on display, I just thought, this is really not good for me, and I really like Joe Joyce. He's a lovely guy by all accounts, but he looked terrible, really. I've never thought Joe Joyce has looked great, but the roboticness, how slow he is, and I just kept looking at him through that fight, and when I was almost cringing every time he took shots, and he took a lot of shots, and you're just thinking, I don't want to. It's like seeing an abused puppy or a dog that's being whipped or kicked and is defenseless. I didn't enjoy it. It was uncomfortable. I thought Joe Joyce was uncomfortable viewing at the press conference, and I thought this was even more comfortable watching him box and watching him take punishment. Joe, please stop. I've always said no man has the right to tell any other man what he should or shouldn't do with his life, with his career, whatever. But for Joe's sake, I don't want to see Joe fight. I don't want to see him in a ring like that again. I don't want to see that look on his face. Every time he got up off the stool, he looked like he was going towards execution or the firing squad. And for me, it was really uncomfortable and really distasteful to see. And I really felt for Joe, because to me, from the first bell, he didn't look like he really wanted to be there. And absolute full credit to the fact that he fucking stayed in there. Like, he showed his mettle. It's unquestioned. But for me, I didn't enjoy it. I was kind of watching through, from behind a pillow. And it just wasn't pleasant. I didn't find it pleasant. It wasn't a pleasant experience. It wasn't pleasant seeing Joe Joyce like that. The technical ability on show, what little of it there was, I thought was poor. And again, this is not being disrespectful to either fighter. I'm just saying what I see. And hopefully we don't see Joe in there again or have to sit uncomfortably through him, muddling his way through a press conference. I didn't enjoy it. It's not the side of boxing I like. So yeah, that was it. I'll see you all soon.